Yeah, so the intention is to share at least something that I found really, really useful. I mean, it is a tool that applies to all three dimensions, and I think I already mentioned in previous practice in previous meetings, but I can't emphasize um, how beneficial it is, and as well as how if the practice is actually earnest and focused and concentrated, it could, and I'll explain a little bit later, but it could really build up our resilience as presence. And through one pointed concentration, it can really clear up as well and show you different associations and different images and different stories that are associated with whatever you're repeating. It's body mind mirroring. It's kind of like a rapid fire, but you can not necessarily need to use a command. And we'll go over it later. And it also touches the third dimension. So it does uncover what is underneath and what is repressed. So it's kind of like covering everything in a sense, but it's a wonderful practice for someone who comes to KI and not does want to bring all the way. Meaning, what does it mean all the way? It means that you want to process and want to really alleviate the suffering as a human, become more intimate with yourself, more gentle with yourself, more intimate with others, and so on. But as well as, some people come to this from non-dual platforms and understanding that there's a missing link, there's something missing in non-duality, because just pointing to awareness is not enough. So there's actually, in my experience, and Scott been talking lately a lot about the inside out approach. So in my experience is a little bit different to the inside out of KI, but it was still an inside out approach as opposed to outside in. And all that means is practice is needed. And if anything, if there's anything in the way of practice, it just means that we can bring that to the chopping board or the magnifying glass of KI and just explore it. What is in the way? What's the resistance? How to allow resistance deeper and deeper still, so we can, I guess, internally be more sincere about why are we here and what are we doing really with this? Are we trying to find a safe space, or are we actually trying to find an actual lasting transformation? Okay, so no further ado, because I really want to squeeze in the meditation before I just start chatting. Let's meditate together, and whoever stays, we're going to stay for another half an hour just to open up to any questions or any sharing. And I'll explain a little bit further what I mean by that too. Let me see. Where's my phone? So we're going to meditate for about 20 minutes. It's a guided rest. So I'll guide your mind that feels agitated and doesn't know what to do. I'll kind of guide it and let it know what it can focus on. Oops, that's the wrong one. Sorry. I invite you to get comfortable. So however you're seated, it's really helpful to kind of be upright with your spine to the best of your possibility straight. It doesn't have to be tense. If you have a recliner, you can completely recline and relax. The intention of this is not to fall asleep. And if you do, it's totally okay. That's what your body needed, maybe. Or you kind of might be learning about yourself that if that happens every time you try to meditate, it's your protection mechanism. That's how your resistance works. It just shuts things down. And it's totally okay. And there are ways of just committing to sitting more often, but with shorter amounts of time, but more often intervals will actually tackle that. and invite resistance, like to be okay, like it's safe to stop without shutting down. So however you're sitting, getting comfortable so you don't need to move for the next 20 minutes or so. And then find a way where you really, really can let go into the support. So find all the sensations that hold your body, whether it's a chair, a cushion, sofa, whatever it is, all the points of contact. As soon as you find those sensations, just notice that you can actually fully let go and relax even deeper, as if letting the body, the physical body, melt into those sensations of support. And when I speak about physical relaxation, you can imagine as if the body was breathing in. I mean, you can actually take a deep breath. And then on the breathing out, notice how it just kind of relaxes. So when you relax into the points of support, it's as if your body is just sighing out, like, sense of relief. I don't need to hold anything uptight. I can stop resisting for a moment. And you might be surprised that as soon as you found yourself fully relaxed, there's always going to be the next layer to relax even deeper. Because just unconsciously, the body picks up the energetics, pick up the tension that is still there. So without even noticing, you might notice that your shoulders or your back or any other part of your body became all of a sudden tense again. So first of all, what we're going to do is this deep scanning from head to the bottom of our feet with the invitation to relax. Starting perhaps with the face, relaxing all facial muscles, relaxing eyes, eyebrows, the forehead, noticing how much tension we carry in the jaw. So just for a moment, even for a brief moment, inviting the jaw to drop. Relax tension. Even though it might carry the tension in its cellular memory almost, and therefore needs to be relearned how to stay relaxed. And then at your own pace, you can move through the neck, the shoulders, down your torso. Letting the shoulders drop. Letting the chest relax. The abdomen arms becoming so heavy and so immobile. If you wouldn't even pay attention to them, it's if like you don't even have arms. But now paying attention, you're fully aware of your arms, your hands. Relaxing the pelvis. Allowing all that to fully rest, meeting all the sensations of support. And moving through your legs, the knees and calves. And your feet. Gently holding attention in your feet. Noticing how awareness can move and become so localized. Just being aware of your feet and nothing else, apart from my voice. There's feet and my voice. There's nothing else. And you might notice already immediately, if you kind of attuned to direct experience, that sometimes when we move attention to one location, everything else disappears. Not until a thought comes and brings attention to our head, all of a sudden the head reappears. And everything else might be forgotten. Kind of what happens when awareness gets merged with thought. As if there's nothing else but just that world of thinking. Just that reality. If you find yourself thinking or watching thoughts, just come back to any sensory experience that's happening in your surrounding, whether it's sounds, whether it's some buzzing of computer, the sound of my voice coming through the computer speakers, or just that, even without the labels, what comes through where, just the pure sound that happens. You can come back to that. Anytime you get lost. And we started with this relaxation, deep relaxation. And yet I want you to as well include in the relaxation the no agenda to this sitting. Meaning there's really nowhere to go apart from relaxing deeper and deeper. So there's nothing to achieve. If anything, it's to learn the attitude of letting go of achievement, of letting the energy of control to just be here, to just be noticed, Be allowed. Be just a part of the direct experience. So the beauty of this relaxed sitting is to learn how to fully relax into the unknown. And the unknown is not something really mysterious, it's something that is always available to us. It's actually what is happening in reality. It's just the mind creates this acrobatic illusions. We're trying to know, trying to arrive, or trying to project. But if we simply not act, not allow awareness to be manipulated by the mind, we can start noticing that all these manipulations can just rise and fall within the seeing, within the relaxing, within the resting. And surrendering deeper and deeper into the unknown. I have no idea what this simple, relaxed sitting can bring about. And observe if there's an inertia to get somewhere. Just watch it. Hi, inertia, welcome. You're also welcome to be here. Hi, noisy mind. Yes, you have so much to say. You're also welcome to be here. And you're just still there. Just a space. The always aware space in which things come and go. The mind might be agitated without anything to do because it's so used to do stuff. And what you can give it to play with is to constantly go deeper and deeper into relaxation. Relaxing control. Relaxing the need to know. Relaxing the need to arrive. The beauty is that our minds never actually had the chance, but the mind so enjoys peace and quiet and rest. Like an overworked machine that really wants some pause, but it just doesn't know how. So we need to teach the mind how to relax, like we teach babies how to fall asleep. They don't know how to switch off from the external world into another state of consciousness. It doesn't take that long. So if you commit to a sitting practice, it might not take you that long if you're earnest and sincere enough to learn this amazing skill. Not to shut the mind, but to relax so deeply that it too can relax. When the invitation is to relax, it doesn't mean that some parts of you that might be tense will be able to relax. What can relax is the attitude towards them being there. The attitude of trying to fight any tension out of existence. Relaxation can happen even with a deep contraction on the inside. Because what's relaxing is the actual resistance that constantly gets us out of the present moment. And the present moment is a relaxing state, is who you are, what you are. So we're going to remain in silence for about 5 minutes or so without any guidance. So just choose a point of focus for your mind if it feels jumpy, if it can't relax. You can bring it back over and over again, perhaps to sounds that happen outside. Or you can also bring it back to your breath, noticing the movement of the breath, the expansion and contraction of the rib cage. If you found yourself quite busy on the inside, it's totally normal. It's okay. If anything, this practice is a learning of acceptance of everything as is, without judgment, without trying to fix our reality in any way. And if anything that we can learn from this, if we can apply it to the rest of life, meaning this kind of welcoming attitude to whatever is arising, think with things which start shifting and moving much faster. It's in our resistance that suffering persists, separation persists. Not actual, but just experiential, felt sense. And if you arrive to just a quiet space, just feel it, just be it. There's nothing else, nowhere to go. It's already here. Just feel the spacious capacity that you are. So let's slowly come back to moving the body if it needs to move or stretch, or if your leg got numb. And take your time to slowly at your own pace to open your eyes or to stay with your eyes closed, however you feel appropriate for you. Nothing like chair yoga. Beautiful. Let's see, I want to first see if there's anyone that wants to share anything or ask anything. I'm here. Thanks, Renee.
I have a question, Melina.
Hi, Nicole.
I noticed that when I get in a super relaxed state, meditating, I forget to breathe. Like have you ever had this, like where your body's so relaxed, it literally like forgets to breathe? And it's not like I come back gasping, but then I'll notice, I'll be like, whoa, what was that? Like, it's almost like the body wants to relax so much it doesn't want to breathe, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's I mean, it's not frightening, it's not unnerving at all. It's just like I'm so relaxed. I don't even want to take the energy to breathe. And even though I have the sensation that I'm being breathed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever experienced this?
Yeah. Yeah. This is a normal part of kind of a beginning stage of samadhi. It's just everything calms down so much that that's how yogis can kind of even scientifically prove and change their heart rate really quickly. It's that they change the states of the brain so fast that the heart doesn't need to do so much effort. So what's happening, the breath becomes so shallow. Like when I meditate, the breath becomes almost non-existent. But still, I'm not gasping for air because there's just so low energy that needs to whatever is happening. Everything gets deep rest. like the whole body, all the organs and everything gets deep rest. So a lot of yogis use meditation, deep meditation instead of sleep.
Really? Wow.
And people that do Vipassana, everyone, like all my friends reported, I don't know if there's Vipassana meditators and if it's true for their experience, what I know that people that were meditating in Vipassana for so long, they barely sleep at night. They don't need, they're like constantly awake. They just don't need to. It's just that deep rest that happens. Yeah. And so if it's not scary, that's great. That's the right direction for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like literally, as soon as I realized that's what's, I'm like, who cares? It's just like whatever, you know. It's just like, don't think, just don't even think about it. Just be, just allow. Who cares? It doesn't matter.
Yeah. And the body takes care of itself. Believe me, if it was lacking air, it would grasp for a deep breath of air, but it's just so relaxed. It's not gonna not care, you know, about being breath. So getting oxygen and everything takes care of itself. We just need to trust. Yeah.
Something else that happened is you were talking about the mind, like awareness is I can't remember how you said it, but it was almost like having compassion for the mind, like the mind and the body wants so much to be able to relax, but it doesn't think it can.
Yeah.
And you said some things that like it was such a compassionate statement that I literally like felt like sad for, like, just relax, it's okay, just relax, you know. And then like tears came, and then I just tried to let all of it go and like, you know,
Yeah.
let it all move through. But that was the entry point for me to just be able to relax, is when you were coming from that really compassionate place for the mind and the body that just,
Yeah.
like, so tired, it just needs to relax.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And not be so hyper vigilant and doing and thinking, controlling. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Imagine it's been on guard for so long, just for so long. And this huge like aha was that, you know, before it even coming to KI, was just like, okay, I am the slave to my mind. And apparently the mind was this evil thing that was keeping me always this noise in my head, you know, that was trying to kind of battle. But then what started to happen, like the mastering the mind didn't became a battle against the mind. It became, okay, refocusing my attention. If I was giving it always to the mind, I'm refocusing the attention. And anyway, it did its work. But what happens after that, the realization was like, wow, how confused and how exhausted and how entranced the mind was, being on guard, being on guard, being on guard, being on guard. And all of a sudden, when it actually could be quiet, I couldn't get enough of the quiet. I mean, now I play music and whatever, you know, stillness is here, but I don't crave it so much. But in the beginning, it was this intense seeing, like, wow, this beautiful, exhausted mind. It really, really needed to fully collapse and fully surrender and fully takes its re-own its right place as the servant to awareness. It's the most magnificent tool, but it's a servant to awareness, which is now it's complete other way around. Like awareness was like the young us was still incapable to process. So the mind stepped in as a protector, right? When just became this monster, an exhausted monster. Yeah, quite exhausted. So it's quite fascinating that when we start learning that the mind also wants to relax, and actually awareness also wants to relax, because the awareness is also gets constantly manipulated by the mind. So it always like, okay, we always, you know, tell where to pay attention. Awareness is simply where we're us, which is an attention. Attention, it's the light, the existence itself. So it's like we're always, okay, do this and do that and do this and focus on this and focus on that. And then when we come to meditate, the beauty of this is giving the body the rest, right? All our organs, what you just noticed, you know, with the heart really, 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 really slowing down and the breath slowing down. And it's this relaxation gives the mind a cue to rest. And when the mind rests and redraws its manipulation of awareness, then awareness is going to still be jumping and it's going to be aware of this, I'm going to be aware of that. But then it kind of catches up. Oh, okay. It's also okay to rest. And that rests. And in this what we call samadhi is this deep, deep, deep rest on all levels. But it takes that. It just takes curiosity, sincerity, and exploration, whatever it is, whatever brings us there. It doesn't have to be closed eyes, right? It could be just really being present in the moment with whatever you're doing. Driving a car, listening to the other person, like really, really, really listening. Whatever you're doing right now, you're super present. There's nothing else, right? So there's so many portals.
Mm.
Mm.
Well, thank you for doing this, for offering this every week. It's lovely.
Thank you. Thanks, Nicole. So nice to hear you. Let's see. Anyone else? Philip?
Yeah, I was just wondering because as a total beginner, as myself, with no experience in meditation, and me experiencing how active my mind is, what would you recommend for someone like me, how to start and get into it? For example, what would you recommend? How often?
Oh,
So how long per session, or rather in the morning or in the evening?
Yeah.
What would you recommend?
yeah. Okay, cool. So, are you here?
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Sorry, everything shifted. Yeah. So, so two things. Let's talk about meditation, and then I'm going to add for whoever's interested. If you're really into KI and you want to make that as well a practice that of first dimension, I'll talk about just right after about body mind mirroring as a practice. So meditation, it's not that simple just to sit down and just to allow things to be as they are. It's like a next level of meditation. Like the first steps, it would be, well, you see, in yoga, I come from yogic tradition. It was nervous system regulation, meaning like I was on the mat, on the yoga mat, just doing yoga. That means it's just like you opening up your energy channels, you're just moving blockages out, and you're breathing. The breathing technique will bring you to a state of balance. So let's say that all helps. But if you just had the meditation part, so yogis created this system that, you work on your body and your body becomes this much more conductive system to sit still. So, but another element, even if you didn't have the other practices, you could start with just one pointed concentration. What would that look like? It could look like, well, there's more kind of esoteric practice that you can find out for yourself. And I've been sharing with some people here, maybe heard me saying that. But my first intuitive way of meditation, and it's actually, there is a practice as such, it was focusing on the inner sound. If you close all the doors wherever you are and keep your room as quiet as possible and close your eyes, even close yourself for a moment just to try and see if you hear in the closet. And just notice if you have like an inner buzzing, it's kind of like a cicada kind of a sound. It's not a tinnitus because it's not a really, really loud, but it's a frequency sound. It's a very subtle frequency sound that happens in our head, either to the right side or it's not inside the ear, but it's kind of somewhere in the head. So there is this very, very, you have to get really, really quiet, really, really attentive to listen to it. But because it's continuous, oh, you disappeared again. There you are again. Because it's continuous, by paying attention on it, like just really, really focusing on it, doing nothing else but refocusing on it. Every time you lose yourself in thought, refocusing on it again. You lose yourself in thought, refocusing on it again. what starts happening, you start developing one-pointed concentration. And our minds, like especially the Western mind, without all the kind of energetic practices that the East has, like we're like lost in mind. It's just so random. It's really random. So we need to, this would be kind of a practice of mastering the mind, saying like, no, thank you, mind. I'm not going there right now. This is where my focus is. This is where my focus is. This is where my focus is. And you might find yourself kind of jumping in and out for a while in the beginning. You can start with 15 minutes a day, probably in the morning. You'll see how you feel better. You might find yourself in the morning more sleepy or in the evening more sleepy. Find the time where you're not as sleepy. And it could be just 15 minutes a day. But it's like regular. What builds a habit is just you're like, okay, alarm here. I don't feel like, you count till 3, and by the count of 3, you just get up. You just, even I don't feel like, you just get up and do it. And it develops that, let's say, well, in non-duality, they don't want to hear it, but it develops your willpower. And you're just it's just gonna be easier and easier every time. Next time you do it, and next time you do it. And just, but don't guilt trip yourself if you don't. It's totally okay. So you sit down for those 15 minutes and you really refocus on that inner sound. What's going to happen, it's going to be really actually fast. If you do really diligently practice that, you're going to develop quite fast a very longer span of focused concentration. And focused concentration, it's like a bridge to spaciousness. It's a bridge from the ego, kind of the flat plane of the past and future, and just this kind of absorption and density, to all of a sudden like spaciousness. And no matter how many thoughts will come here, it's just going to be just free and spacious, and it feels like nothing touches you because you become the space as opposed to the density of the content of the ego. So concentration does that. It's one of the steps of Patanjali Yoga, in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, and it's called Pratyahara. It's like the 5th step before even meditation can happen. So when that is mastered, what starts to happen when we focus, when you are one-pointed and your mind is not jumping away for at least 5 minutes uninterruptedly, but it really has to be uninterruptedly. You really have to become one with that sound for those 5 minutes. Then those moments of spaciousness open up. And I can't state enough, because a lot of people make meditation as a form of escape, as a form of safety, because we feel unstressed, but if you can make meditation work for you, meaning if you want to wake up, there is techniques that wake us up, that bring, like, pull away attention, awareness, who we are, from the trance of the mind. Refocus it on what's here and now, because what the sound does, because it's continuous, it's just continuously keeping you now, without distraction. And that's what it's relearning. And then basically it's going to start creating bigger gaps of just presence. And the level of meditating in a different way, kind of like we're meditating here, just allowing everything to be as it is, allowing the deep relaxation to come in. And it's more, instead of one-pointed concentration, it's this full aperture of spaciousness kind of opens up to take everything and becomes available. But before that, without guidance, just to do this, it's almost impossible, without going through the actual practicing and training and concentration. But 15 minutes a day will bring you far if you feel like you want to try it out.
Okay, thank you. So the sound, would it here coming from myself, or would it also make sense to have some, for example, white noise running somewhere on a speaker?
You know what? Never tried. It could be. I mean, the yogic technique itself, it's just that you withdraw. It has to be like an internal process. Withdrawing, it's called actually withdrawing of the senses. So the step prior to that is withdrawing of the senses, and it's just like refocusing on one sense. But I haven't never tried. Perhaps perhaps, because the next stage of meditation is actually including everything, all the sounds outside. That's how you become even more spacious, not just in your body, but just also like wherever the bird is singing, wow, you're there. The bird is singing within you as the space. So it's could be, I mean, just experiment. We're all very, very different. There are some indications, you know, take whatever is needed and leave everything else behind and what doesn't serve. But I always say, like, try. These things are, they're like keys to open doors. So if you tried the key for your door and it didn't work for, you know, you tried diligently for maybe a couple of weeks and nothing is changing, well, maybe I'll try another third week. And if it's not working, then maybe I'll find something else. But these are the beauty of yoga, and not the way, you know, it kind of presented itself to the West with just the asanas and becoming more and more flexible. But the actual yoga is actually merging, right? What we're doing here, body, mind, mirror, which is like merging the body and the mind and the spirit together. So yoga is like merge. Because now it's like, it's all over, it's disconnected. The mind is saying one thing, the body is in complete repression with something else. And our emotions saying it's about them and they hate me. And it's like, we're a big mess. So it's kind of recalibrating, bringing things together. Meditation is very useful, or just different practices such as body, mind, mirroring is really, really powerful as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And anyway, we reach out. You can write to me if you have any questions or specific questions, like you tried it and or come to those meetings and ask me, report what you found, what you didn't find. Maybe for some people, it's not that easy to find that inner sound.
Yeah, I'll try it out. Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks. Yes, Dominique.
Hello.
Hi.
I wanted to say something about your teaching and KI, because it's a bit some kind of a paradox for me, because the whole point of KI is kind of go and really start to listen to all those voices that we have repressed. I mean, emotions, mainly emotions, but also the voices. And it's true that I sometimes get lost in all those voices, challenging sometimes to, not to get lost in them, because they're very loud and I can clearly hear them. And I also ask them what they need somehow, and mainly it's to feel safe and some kind of protection. But it's really like two extremes for me somehow. And I don't know if you have like how to stay in the balance of both.
Yeah, for sure. Which beautiful kind of, we're gonna wrap up exactly with that, is body, mind, mirroring over and over again. I'm coming back to this tool because what does it do? So instead of being lost, is body, mind, mirroring. Okay, how it's done, it's you find what's really happening. So if you have a story, let's say, Dominique, if you have a story in your head and it's narrating and it's saying this and you know, it needs this and it needs that, and there's so many things that it's identifying with. What you need to find, it's not the story, but what is your body saying? Okay, is there a contraction here? Okay, is there, I don't know, an agitation here? What is here? Maybe there's an emotion, even that sadness, let's say. Okay, what is the sadness already saying? Or what is the agitation in my body? What is it already saying? What is this anxiousness? What is it already saying? What is the statement? How different it is from rapid fire, which is third dimension, which is we're not covering here. It's more rapid fire, we're rapid firing commands, whereas body, mind, mirroring can be applied to deficiency story. If you found it, oh my gosh, I feel so not loved right now. I'm so invisible. I'm invisible. Okay. And sometimes it's not just I'm invisible, but I'm invisible and maybe it's my fault, or I'm invisible and blah, 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 blah. Because you need to find like, what is this really, really? Because it might not be just I'm unlovable. It might be I'm unlovable and some sort of a package to it, right? So you kind of encapsulate, you take that statement and you start firing it, like repeating it into whatever the body feels. And what it does, it takes you out of the story. Because now if the habit is, yes, it's beautiful to see things and to see stories with KI when we're discovering for the first time. It's like, wow, our eyes open up like, oh, okay, that is why. And this is why. But at some point, it becomes irrelevant. It becomes just like an old record playing and playing and playing. So to get out of that is kind of an involvement. So the beauty of this tool, it brings the first dimension in. Because when we repeat things over and over, let's say, I'll take, I'm invisible and it's my fault, just as an example. Okay, I'm invisible and it's my fault, I'm invisible. You can repeat out loud. It might give you another dimension of hearing, or you can repeat it internally. And it can go as fast or as slow, depends of how the energy feels connected. You don't want to, how do I say, you want to keep it alive. So it's still connected to this energy of whatever sadness or the deficiency energy that is here. So you're repeating it and you're repeating it. And by repeating it, you are staying in the present moment. Another dimension of this, you're really acknowledging what is. You're not running away. You're not saying no to what is, but you're also not creating stories from what is. You're actually acknowledging the raw, direct experience of what is. So this is kind of brings the first dimension. Now, second dimension, while we get more masterful at it, sometimes we're so stuck in one story that actually maybe there's deeper stories that are connected to that we don't even see because we're so focused and so zoomed in on one. Another, how it works on second dimension, just by repeating it, continuously repeating it, what can happen with the curiosity there, what is the deeper thing I haven't seen about this? Maybe you can ask that, like just like kind of, or just your attitude, your curiosity to know more, to see more, might show you some elements of this story that you haven't seen yet. So this is how it's kind of connected, but we don't grab onto it. We still continue repeating. It's just more, okay, oh, I see. But you're still staying with it. So the first dimension is still here. Presence is still here. And then what happens, it's even actually a third dimension tool, because we can actually start moving energy with that. By just being present with this, you might start noticing that it's shifting maybe to an intense sadness all of a sudden, or anger opens up, or all of a sudden something else opens up because we really, really paid attention without, being distracted. And as I'm saying, with this specific tool, like even it touches a lot the third dimension, because if anger shows up, or like, oh my gosh, they did it to me, like you're just seeing it, you're just seeing how they did it to you. You're not even saying, because you're repeating, I'm invisible and it's my fault. I'm invisible. Fuck this. It's not my fault, but I'm invisible and it's my fault. You're still coming back. So this repression might start also showing up as well. So for me, this tool is just so fascinating. Like I have goosebumps right now, how covering it is of everything. And you don't need to have a fancy session, that you need to know all these other tools. But if you know just the attitude and this kind of one-pointed concentration, being really with the energy, being just really gentle as well. You don't want to create some sort of like dissociation. If you feel that there's a lot of energy or a big emotion comes up, just stop for a moment and just let it all just fully raw be here, like we're doing it here in this practice. So this is really good to kind of not get lost in the stories and bring the first dimension, the presence in.
Maybe I need to ask then, in the everyday life, then outside of practice, because I sometimes don't know with the mind, can I just say, not now, mind, or stop, or whatever? I mean,
Yeah.
in everyday life, sometimes you are somewhere and you again, or I again get lost in some
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
back,
Yeah.
just
Yeah, it's remember the now process, the tool? Yeah. So like include that as much as you can. There's no for this particular tool, there's no a lot. Like you can if you can include it every 5 minutes of your day, include it every 5 minutes of your day. Literally. And then now what it happens, oh, okay, here I'm doing it again. I'm noticing it. Okay, I'll just be open to this. So you're not there already. You're not in the story anymore. And I'm just, okay, you're welcome. So even just doing now that you're already kind of away from the actual being in the story. I mean, if the trigger is here, for me, it's like the indication, come back to the body. So what is happening in the body? So if the trigger, if the irritation, if there's a contraction, there's something, even though you're moving and you're interacting with people, this is your anchor into now. Just feel it. Just be with the sensation as opposed to in the head. And you'll be bouncing back into the head, and then you bring yourself back again. And it's it's a practice. It's kind of a remembrance practice. But the more we do it, the more it becomes kind of second nature and becomes like, oh, here I am. Here, you're just going to start catching yourself. Here I am, I can catch myself now. I'm onto myself now. I see myself doing it again.
yeah, I guess I'm in that place where I realize how much I have been repressing my whole life.
Yeah.
Emotions, and I've been in my mind all the time, and now my body starts to open up, and so the emotions are there, and I start to feel really the emotions. And in the everyday life, that's not always easy, because when in front of my daughter, for example, I'm like, okay, I start feeling, and I eventually let tears come up and everything. Well, I've never done that, in front of people. You have that emotion and you just you don't.
Swallow it.
That's how we live, huh?
Yeah. But another thing like it would be to really check, because if sadness is so accessible, I'm gonna let the trainees come in, but I'll just let them know that we're all finishing in 2 minutes. They're just all waiting there. Hi guys, so sorry, I'm finishing in 5 minutes, but you can be with us here. I just don't want to let you all be waiting. So I'm just answering the last question. Sorry guys, it was a meeting previously. Your face. Sorry. Yeah, so it's just when emotions are, if we have access to a lot of sadness, and that was kind of, we opened it up, maybe it was not accessible, but now is, I would check into layers of repressed anger underneath and really, really work with repressed anger, because that's what might be happening. Because what happens is like the repression is right there. And on top of that, we have the deficiency story as a lid that keeps it like in place. Right. And the deficiency story creates all these other triggers and uncomfortable emotions and all the blah, 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 and the stories stream like literally mushrooms after rain from that. So it's like really at the root, going to the root, really, and was addressing that would help.
In my case, there was guilt between the sadness and the anger, but the guilt is now much better. I can access anger now where I couldn't in the past. So yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah. Thank you, Dominique. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone. Yeah. And yeah, let's try. Well, yeah, whoever is joining next week is not happening. That's the only time I have to skip is next week. But the week after that, we're going to restart the Tuesday meetings. And I think we'll have a little bit more time, and it's not going to be as jammed with the training. No, not next week. 2 weeks after. Okay. But anyway, I'll let you know. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks, Renee. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Helena.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Nick.
Bye.
Bye all.
Bye, everyone. Philip and everyone. Bye, Marco. Bye, Lorraine, Alexander, everyone. Bye, 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 bye. Sorry. Let me stop to record.